Welcome. We have a different kind of experience for our Good Friday meditation this year, in which we are combining some of the traditional texts of the Passion narrative from the Gospel of Luke with a brand new piece of music entitled Tether and Twine, which was commissioned by the Hijinx Clarinet Quartet, of which Dr. Jennifer Reeves, our office manager, is a part. Luke Ellard, the composer of the piece, says this of Tether and Twine. When Hijinx Clarinet Quartet commissioned me in 2020, we were in the heart of a global pandemic, facing the realities of fraying relationships to others and ourselves. Some days were listless, going through the motions, fragmented. Other moments braided to a background of tragedy and upheaval. This was my headspace while writing Tether and Twine. On the one hand, the musical material slowly weaves different fabrics together, knotting, fraying, spinning. This vivid imagery ran through my mind while composing this work. Blurred strings coming into focus, abrasive technicolor, grit, muted hues, warmth. This imagery kept a hold of my emotional state while trying to live through this seemingly endless season of humanity. How do these images relate to our lived experiences now? How are we experiencing the tenuous simultaneity with the overbearing? What has this meant for our relationships? This piece and I don't have the answer. Those are the words written by composer Luke Ellard. Now, some of those questions I think are quite appropriate for those of us struggling to find what faith means in the 21st century, and especially on this day in which we remember Jesus sacrificing his life for the sake of love. How do these images relate to our lived experiences now? How are we experiencing the tenuous simultaneity with the overbearing? And what has this meant for our relationships? Our meditation also likely will not have definitive answers, but it is a good place to dwell, to listen for the movement of the Spirit as we ponder the sacrifice that Jesus makes. Let us open in prayer. Violence is the way of the world, but love is your way, O God. Christ's way walks through the violence and hate, past fear and death, into new life, recreating the world, so that our way may become your way, God of love and life. From the Gospel of Luke. Jesus left and made his way to the Mount of Olives, as was his custom, and the disciples followed him. When he arrived, Jesus said to them, "Pray that you don't give in to temptation." He withdrew from them about a stone's throw, knelt down and prayed, saying, "Abba, Father, if it is your will, take this cup of suffering away from me. However, not my will, but your will be done." Then a heavenly angel appeared to Jesus and strengthened him. He was in anguish and prayed even more earnestly. His sweat became like drops of blood falling on the ground. When he got up from praying, he went to the disciples and found them asleep, overcome by grief. He said to them, "Why are you sleeping? Get up and pray so you won't give in to temptation." And while Jesus was still speaking, a crowd appeared, and the one called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him. And Jesus said to him, "Judas, would you betray the human one with a kiss?" When those around him recognized what was about to happen, they said, "Lord, should we fight with our swords?" One of them struck the high priest's servant, cutting off their right ear. And Jesus responded, "Stop! No more of this!" He touched the slave's ear and healed them. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple guard, and the elders who had come to get him, "Have you come with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a thief? Day after day, I was with you in the temple, but you didn't arrest me. But this is your time, when darkness rules." After they arrested Jesus, they led him away and brought him to the high priest's house. Peter followed from a distance. When they lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter was among them. Then a servant woman saw him sitting in the firelight. She stared at him and said, "This man was with him too." But Peter denied it, saying, "Woman, I don't know him." A little while later, someone else saw Peter and said, "You are one of them too." And Peter said, "Man, I'm not." An hour or so later, someone else insisted, "This person must have been with him because he's a Galilean too." Peter responded, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." And at that very moment, while Peter was still speaking, a rooster crowed. Jesus turned and looked straight at Peter, and Peter remembered Jesus' words, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter went out and cried uncontrollably. Jesus is brought before Pilate, but the crowd turns on him. Continuing. But the crowd was adamant, shouting their demand that Jesus be crucified. Their voices won out. Pilate issued his decision to grant their request. He released the one they asked for, who had been thrown into prison because of a riot and murder. But he handed Jesus over to their will. As they led Jesus away, they grabbed Simon, a man from Cyrene, who was coming in from the countryside. They put the cross on his back and made him carry it behind Jesus. A huge crowd of people followed Jesus, including women who were mourning and wailing for him. Jesus turned to the women and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, don't cry for me. Rather, cry for yourselves and your children. The time will come when they'll say, 'Happy are those who are unable to give birth, the wombs that never gave birth, and the breasts that never nursed a child.' Then they will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' And if they do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" They also led 2 other criminals to be executed with Jesus. When they arrived at the place called the Skull, they crucified Jesus along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." It was now about noon, and darkness covered the whole earth until about 3 o'clock, while the sun stopped shining. Then the curtain in the Holy of Holies was torn down the middle, and crying out in a loud voice, Jesus said, "Father, into your hands I entrust my life." And after saying this, he breathed for the last time. When the centurion saw what happened, he praised God, saying, "It's really true. This was a righteous one." All the crowds who had come together to see this event returned to their homes, beating their chests after seeing what had happened. And everyone who knew Jesus, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance observing these things. Now there was a man named Joseph who was a member of the council. He was a good and righteous person. He had not agreed with the plan and actions of the council. He was from the Jewish city of Arimathea and eagerly anticipated God's kingdom. This person went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Taking it down, he wrapped it in a linen cloth and laid it in a tomb carved out of the rock, in which no one had ever yet been buried. It was the preparation day for the Sabbath, and the Sabbath was quickly approaching. The women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph. They saw the tomb and how Jesus' body was laid in it. And they went away and prepared fragrant spices and perfumed oils. They rested on the Sabbath, in keeping with the commandment. We close in prayer. Jesus, we saw your anguish in the garden. Death is never easy. We saw you betrayed and denied. Death is never easy. We saw you tried and sentenced. Death is never easy. We saw you tortured and crucified. Death is never easy. We saw you cry in pain, and we saw you die. Death is never easy. We saw your body placed in a tomb. Death is never easy. Now, we enter the great silence of waiting, waiting for the hope of the morning sun and the death of death. Amen.